Hi guys, in today's video we are going to be looking at arrays and lists, which are basically the same thing. So let's start Visual Studio. Let's create a new project. We're going to create a console app, .NET Framework, C# as always, and we're going to call this one arrays and lists. You can call yours whatever you like. I'm going to hit create. And so we're going to set up the skeleton of a console application that works with arrays. So let's start by mapping out what we want to do. So we will create a new list or array. We want to look at adding items to the array. We will look at removing items from the array, and we will look at looping over the array. We'll do that very briefly because I want to cover that type of loop in a different video. So let's go ahead and look at how we create an array. So the first thing to know about lists and arrays is they can have a type. So you can have an array of strings, you can have an array of integers, you could have an array of dates. Any object in .NET you can have an array of. And the way that we declare them, the way that we create the variable for an array is we say var, and we might call this one string list equals new list. And then we actually use these sort of sharp brackets here. We open and close them and we put string inside because that's the type. And then finally we have to finish that declaration with an open and close parentheses and a semicolon. So let's have a look at that. So we're saying we want a new variable and we're creating a new list, and the list's type is string. So we put that in the sharp brackets and then we close off that with a double parentheses. So this syntax here, this new and double parentheses syntax is really important. So every time you instantiate, and that's what we're doing here, we're instantiating a new list object of string. But any type of object that you want to create an instance of, you'll do in this way. And we'll cover objects and classes like very soon. But this is actually the second time we've instantiated an object. So I just wanted to kind of cover that with you. It will always look like this. You'll say, I want to assign a variable as a new something, and then you have an open and close parentheses. Some objects will have parameters you can pass in. So you'll see here, we'll be using this empty one with no parameters, but you could actually pass in a number to say what the maximum capacity for this array is. And you could also pass in another array to kind of seed the array. So I want a new array, but here's a few items that I want to put in there. So that's one thing you can do. But today we're just going to create a new empty array. So I am purposefully using the words list and array interchangeably because functionally speaking, they're the same thing. A list is an array, but an array isn't necessarily a list, which is confusing. So I'm just going to leave that there. So lists make a lot more sense than arrays. We all know what lists are. It's just a bunch of things in an order, for example. So a list in .NET is no different. We can add things to a list, we can remove things from a list, and we can loop a list. So we can look at all of the items in a loop. So let's go ahead and see what some of that looks like. So I want to add an item to my list. I can say string list because that's what we've called it. I can say .add, and then we can add a string. So I can just say, I don't know, we'll call this one 1, and we'll end the line. We can add as many items in there as we want because we didn't specify a limit. So I'm going to put 3 in. So we've got 3 items in our list. Now maybe we want to remove one of those items. So how do we do that? Well, we would say string list dot remove. And then we just specify which one we want to remove. Let's say we just remove 2. There is also a few other add commands. We can actually say string list dot remove all. And that will remove all of the elements that match a condition. And if you don't specify a condition, it will just remove those. We'll leave that one for now because we don't want to do that. And now we will look at looping over all of the items in the list. So this is a new type of loop. Before we used the while loop, but this time we're going to use the for each loop. And the for each loop kind of does exactly what it says. It goes for each item. So we can actually say here, so we create a new variable to hold the item in the loop. So we say var item, and then we say in, and we have to pass in an array at this point. So we put in our string list, and then we'll open and close our squiggly brackets. And now we've got a loop. So it will loop through each one of the items in the list. It will assign the value of that item to this item variable, and then it will run this block of code. So what we should do is output them to the console. So we'll say console.writeLine, and then we will put in our item from here. And we will end the line. And finally, what we also want to do is actually stop the app from closing, so we get to see what the console says, and we will use our friend console.readline. He's great for keeping apps open. So let's just recap before we run. So we've created a new string list. We've created a variable called string list. We've assigned it to be a new list of type string. So it's a list that can hold strings. And then we've added these 3 items to the list, and we've removed one of them. And then finally, we'll loop over the list, and we will write each item into the console, and then we'll wait for the user to hit return and close the app. So let's run that. So as expected, we've got 1 and 3, but no 2 because we removed that from the list. So that's the basics of using lists and how you can have lists of different types of objects, how you can add stuff, how you can remove stuff, and how you can loop over them and look at what's inside them. If you have any questions about that, hit me up in the comments below. There will be another video coming on for each arrays and another video for filtering lists and ordering them and things like that, which we'll cover later. So as always, any questions, just hit me up in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next one.